Hi, I'm Peter.
And I'm Kenya.
Welcome to the This and That Chat.
We should try to sing it.
This is the This and That Chat. I don't have the words for the song.
No, with the same intro that we do.
What do you mean?
You know, like, hi, I'm Peter, but say it in a sing song.
Hi, I'm Peter.
And I'm Kenya. You know, like that. What are you wearing on your head?
It's my hat.
But what hat is it? It's like a demon, monster. Wait, anglerfish.
No, this is the one with it's got the...
Get it so that the viewers can see.
It's like a forge...
I see fire. I see lava.
Yes, it's like a
You look good in white.
A guy making...
You don't wear white enough.
Yeah. I set my hat up in the mirror. Now I gotta... There's a thing you do. Anyways. Welcome to today's episode.
Yeah.
We're doing things a little bit different.
Only because we've been talking about this episode. I feel... for such a long time.
It's been chasing us.
But it's off camera, I feel. There's this topic that we keep going back to and chatting about just between you and I, that it has become, even with conversations with other people, enough that
we feel we need to discuss it in
the chat.
In the chat,
just because other people, I mean, we just recently did one where it was like kind of get to know us. I feel like this is another
couple weeks back.
Look into getting to know us. And I think even last week we alluded to there's this topic themed episode, right?
Well, we talked about the couch.
Was that it?
Yeah, we said that
what happens when I don't listen to the episodes.
We have this like 12-person couch.
Yeah. Oh, and we sit for the entertaining.
And we sit on half of one person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we wanted to talk about, do we just say friends?
I think this is just going to be an original episode, right? Because in the original one, it was just you and I talking. No cameras. It was just you and I talking with a microphone in front of us. Okay. And that's all that there was. So I think it's just having those same conversations, but now in a format where people are hearing it. But it really, I guess, centers around a friend or a friendship. Okay, in that general category. So I feel like I'm the one who's really been sort of digging into the subject in the last year. All right, where there's been a very inquisitive part of me that wants to get to the nitty-gritty of what is a friend, right? Because when you look at the show Friends, for example, they gave you an idea of what friends were supposed to be. And I think that a lot of people have that expectation and that desire for those friendships. And that's why they became our own friends. We felt like we knew them. We were part of that. And you long for that, right? Because it's so wholesome and it's so life-giving, right? And yet, for many people, they don't experience that, right? So there's so many things that sort of come to a head with what was it like for you when you were a kid? Were you popular in school? Did you have a lot of friends? Do you have a lot of friends now? Are you extroverted? Are you introverted? Like there's so many things that go into that pot, right? And then at the end of the day, the question that I have been trying to find out is like, really at its core, what is a friend? Truly, what is a friend, right? Because Facebook has your followers.
The little tab
It's your friends, right? And I feel like it diluted what a friend actually is. So now you can have 5,000 friends and maybe you know 2 people, right? So are we going based off of what society says a friend is?
Let's define it. What does a friend mean to you?
And so then that's where the crux is, right? It's because this is where, in my digging for this and what I see as, I think at the end of it, what I have come to the conclusion is that you're going to define what a friend is to you. And my definition may not be your definition. My needs may be different than your needs. So you may need a friend to be XYZ while I just need it to be X, right? So I don't know that we're here to define what a friend is, but it has brought us to this point in our life
Our journey of friendship.
Our journey of friendship has led us to a place of solitude. Okay. And how did we arrive here? Why are we here? What do we want for the future?
So can we start at the beginning?
I don't know. It's sort of going to be kind of messy, right? It's going to be messy. Because I feel like the beginning is, as a kid, did you have a lot of friends?
That's where I kind of want to start.
Okay. And we kind of have to just sort of touch a little bit. I want to try to stay, because there's a lot to pack into this, right? And the other part that I'm trying to address is that based on me searching within myself and then seeing what other people tell me, like their expectations of friendship is and friends and what does it mean to them and all that stuff, at the end of the day, I have arrived at the conclusion that then I am a bad friend. And so I'm the bad person here.
Well, let's start.
Right. So yeah, at the end of this episode, I'm hoping to have
a little bit
more
of clarity.
Yes. This episode is sponsored by Bubbly.
You didn't bring me a soda.
You don't like this. A delicious carbonated sparkling water with flavors of blackberry.
All right. So let's start from.
Yeah. So as a kid.
For me. So I feel like for me, I made friends. I had the street friends. Mm-hmm. Like you
ride your bike with them.
Kids you ride your bike with, the kids that you played basketball with, like that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I had that in different stages. So when I lived in Miami, the kid that lived behind our house, we would always get together. We'd play football outside, ride our bikes, that kind of stuff. The kids on the corner, which coincidentally you knew also, I would play basketball with them. And there was that little group that we always hung out there, but they never came into my house. I never went into their house. Maybe a little bit, kind of if there was something that we were doing, but that just was never a thing. We were always just out on the street, playing. And then after that, I felt like it was, I don't know that I would call them friends. I think it would be more like acquaintances.
So I was just pinning the fact that part of our conversation has been to establish that there's different circles or rings at the core of friendship, right? So there are those that we call friends that are people that you enjoy hanging out with, but they're not really integrated into your life. Like you said, they didn't come into your house. But then just even taking it a little step further, I feel like your childhood experience would have played a role into maybe how you deal with things now, but your friends from childhood are very, very different than your adult friends, because as a kid, friend is a completely different definition than what you have as an adult.
Well, that's kind of why.
Or maybe some people grow up with the same one and it never changes throughout.
Well, we have seen that. There's some people that their friendships are the same that they've had since they were little kids.
Right.
And I kind of wanted to start there because there's something that's very definitive for me.
Okay, go. And then I'll go for me.
And then we'll go from there. So, I felt like it was there were more acquaintances. And then when we moved down to the Keys, I immediately attached myself with two people that were my friends throughout middle school and high school, and we were friends in school. Now that I think about it, was always in school. Like outside of school, after school, like the amount of time that we hung out was very, very limited. It wasn't a lot. There was almost like a different little group that I would hang out with after school. But I don't know. I felt like there was, depending on what we were doing, like there was the guys that we would play basketball in the front of my house, and we would go over to their house and play Nintendo or do whatever that we were doing. Then there were the my friends in school, and there was a group there that kind of was a little bit on the different varieties that I had. But
What's the defining moment?
So my dad always said to me, there are no friends. You don't have friends. You have acquaintances. It's people that you know. And just now thinking about that, when I was starting to talk about that, I realized that some of the same things that happened to us happened to my dad, causing him to have that stance of there are no friends, there are acquaintances.
Because you have a bad experience.
Because you have a bad experience with people who let you
feel
down.
are your friends.
And then you're just like, just know people, but don't hinge, like don't hitch your wagon to them. You know. So again, I felt like I started thinking about it, like when we got together, right when we got together, I didn't have any friends to introduce to you. You know, I had just graduated high school. I wasn't that far removed from it. I know that they were, you know, they went off to college, they went to different places, and you know that kind of stuff. There are people that I've reconnected with on like Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but our conversations have been very, very limited. Hey, how's it going? Oh, I see you have a family. Congratulations. How are your kids? How old are your kids? Simple stuff.
Right.
It's pleasantries.
Right.
And I feel like hearing that from my dad so much. I remember my dad saying it so much to me. Like I would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go hang out." Those aren't your friends. Those are your acquaintances. You know, and it would be said, there was, you know, "Esos no son tus amigos. Esos son amistades." It was like just
Ingrained in
acquaintances.
you.
It was so ingrained that I don't know if I allowed myself to even have an opportunity
To be open
to
enough for that.
develop a relationship with some of these people to be lifelong friends.
So for me, I feel like I had ideals that I drew from, right? And a lot of it was based in books and movies, right? And if you look at your books and movie friends, they're the kind of friends that you're trying to find, right? So like the person that is just
You're Ron to Harry.
right, you know, like
yeah.
like that, you know, where you're kids and you plan your whole life together and you're old and you're next to each other and you're still like this bond that is just ridiculous, right? And granted, I think that some people have done that.
There are people
right?
that I know from school that did that. That
You know?
they still have those friendships, that those connections are still there. I was just watching just recently when the Super Bowl happened, Boston Rob, who was on Survivor, and we know him, you know, from different reality shows and stuff. He was talking about there's a group of friends that they've been friends, lifelong friends, that every single year they go to wherever the Super Bowl is at. They stay in the city. They don't necessarily go to the Super Bowl because it's expensive, but they go to the city. They hang out together. They enjoy the Super Bowl festivities as a group. And their rule is, if you don't come, you're not invited anymore. You know, and what they do is that they switch it around, and someone else is in charge of putting everything together, and it everyone gets an opportunity as it goes around in rotation. But there's this group of people, and he showed a picture. There's like, I think it's like 12 or 13 people that they get together every single year. They live in different parts of the country now. They have their lives and that kind of stuff, but those are friends that stayed friends. And he says that he's in contact with all of them. Like there's conversations all the time. There's texting. There's this and that. I don't know that we have. I don't know that I have anyone that I text in frequency or ever in a frequency like that didn't feel. Well, we'll get into that part.
Right. So back to me. So one of my key influences in this whole friendship ideal, right, was Anne of Green Gables, right? So she always was looking for this bosom friend, this kindred spirit, someone who's like your twin spirit in someone else, right? So they have the same likes as you. They breathe life into you. You breathe life into them. Like it's the perfect friend, really, right? And she finds this in a girl named Diana, right? And I made a friend as a kid that I saw as my Diana, right? Especially there were so many similarities with the mischief I would get into and how she just sort of followed along, and then she'd get in trouble. She was so well behaved, and then she'd get in trouble on my account, right? And so to me, it was like I was living in this fantasy of what I was reading, right? And in my mind, what I had with her was this thing that's going to outlast the world, right? And I will never forget how there was another girl that came in to the group, and she had said, oh, like they were going to do something, what the two families were going to do together and all that stuff. And she said something about how, she was her friend. And I was like, yeah, but not your best friend, right? And she said, well, I mean, she's my best friend too. And that was incomprehensible to me because I had one best friend, right? And how can I not be your best friend and that's it? Like, that's how it was supposed to be. You have friends and then you have your best friend, right?
Right.
And so that I remember shook my whole like into reality of wait, people have other friends, but at that age I couldn't process that, right? And then there was the thing that split us, which was liking the same boy, right? And so in our effort to claim the same boy who consequently never did anything with either of us, right? That was the reason why our friendship took a different turn, right? So if you really are friends with someone, is that something that splits you up? I don't know, right? That's just like a question mark in the past, right? But since then, that I feel like that's a childhood friendship. Different needs, different things. Like you tell each other secrets of the future. This is what I want. This is who I like. This is what I dream about. When you're an adult, you share things about your life. And now they know about your past. And they know about your future. And they know about your present. That's my understanding of it, right? So fast forward to being an adult. We discussed this in a couple episodes back about just having to really work to put yourself out there, right? So I can do that, but I don't prefer that. And so my understanding is that these people who are friends forever and ever and ever, they have a lot of similar personalities where let's party. And everyone wants to go party. Well, I don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, but I think also like I don't know that it's necessarily the let's party mentality or the similar personalities. I think that they create these genuine relationships with each other. Um, People are they want to feel wanted, I think.
I think that's true for everybody.
And I'm saying people in general, including ourselves. Like, as a people, you want to be wanted somewhere. You want to be a part of something that is not you alone. You know what I mean? So, like, when you meet somebody and they become your friend, and you meet somebody and they become a partner in crime, to say, right? In everything that you do, hey, we're going out, and your first thought is, oh, let me invite said person. Let me, like, that becomes a thing that you long for, and the other person feels the same way. You're mutually giving each other something that there's a desire for. The problem is that if one person wants more than the other, someone's going to get hurt. And that, I think that those are where you see these situations where, like, they were friends, but we're no longer friends. We're not talking to each other anymore.
Yeah.
We had a fight. We had a breakup. We had a falling out. You know, like, I think that's what happens in those situations. And I think that there are rare instances. And I say rare, we hear about them and we know about them because they're so rare, they stand out. But I think that more often than not, it's not a normal situation where somebody stays as friends for a long time. And speaking for myself, there's just hasn't been anything worth that.
Well, you've not had a solid guy friend. I feel like you found it maybe easier to be friends with girls, or I don't know why you didn't have that. I know for me, I have felt it easier to have quote unquote friendships, right? Because again, like, I feel like that's a term that we're trying to define here, with men rather than women, because my experience has been women are very catty. They're always competing. There's a lot of tension that I feel. If you put me in a room full of women versus a room full of men, I feel way more comfortable in a room full of men than I do in a room full of women. There's a term that people use right now, you're a girl's girl. I don't fit that category, because a girl's girl is always going to side with the girls.
But you don't. That's a personality thing.
I guess, but
So
I feel like it plays into these things as
Yeah,
well.
but
So I'm
that's
not
because
putting
you're-
myself out there
But
with women.
you're trying to fit into a category, because that's a category. There are women that have friendships with men that are lifelong friendships, and they're not sexual, they're not intimate, they're not anything more than just friends. So, like that saying, can a guy really be friends with a girl? In those very, very rare situations, I think so. Is it a common thing? Not always. If you're older, right? If you're an older guy and you are trying to make this friendship connection with a girl, I'm sure it started with a double intention.
Maybe, but I feel like that can't work as an adult. I don't think. Now, if you guys were friends as kids and now it's 40 years later and you guys are still friends, that makes sense to me. But as an adult man, where did you meet this person?
No. I'm not.
Do you
I'm
understand?
not
Like,
talking
to me, like that.
I'm talking about a growing friendship.
A growing
from
friendship,
younger.
yeah.
But I'm saying, that's why I'm saying, when you're older, that friendship started with I personally think with a different intention. There had to have been a different intention. It's hard enough for a guy to have the courage to go up and talk to a girl, just to go and talk to her. They're not going to go up to her and be like, I don't like you. I just think you're a cool person and I'd like to be your friend. No way. BS. There's no way at all you can tell me that that was your intention. That you went and you threw that line, yeah, because you wanted to be able to have the opportunity to be in there to see if maybe there was something there. Maybe there was a little bit of a spark. Maybe there was something that was an opportunity for you to have a conversation.
Unless you were kids.
I said
so,
older.
Yeah.
Talking
older.
about
I see
the,
what
the,
you're saying.
the older piece.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is the reality in this situation, where it's a conversation that is being had, with a different intention behind it. And can that bloom into a relationship, a friendship relationship? Yes, I think so. But I don't think that it would fall under the category of a ride or die friend.
Right.
Or whatever.
And I want to stress, like, I do not have any men in my life that are not relatives that are friends, or even I don't know. I feel like an acquaintance is a little closer than a stranger. I don't even feel like I have that. But I'm just saying,
there's people that you know.
I have felt that the requirement to be, as an adult, to be friends with other women, it requires things from me that I'm not necessarily wanting to do those things. For example, anytime that we would hang out with other couples and all that stuff, right? The women all like go off to their end, the men go off to their end, and it's like, okay, so now why do we have to split up? First of all, right? Why can't we all just talk together? Why does there have to be the split, right? So now it's like, okay, I'm forced into a situation that I didn't want to be in, right? Now we're in that situation, and the conversations are lacking. I feel like I don't relate to regular average women the way other people fit in. While they're talking about one subject, for example, that all of them are yes, agreeing to it, I have a completely different opinion about it, And so now either you put yourself out there and now you get judged, and the tension with women, or you stay quiet and now you're not part of the conversation. So what am I doing here? Am I a lampstand?
Yeah, something comes to mind, like we've had this conversation. We won't go into the subject, but where you came up to me and you were like, I just left this group of like 5 or 6 women, and they were all in agreement with their stance on the subject that they were talking about. And you said to me, I had to jump in and agree with them just so that I wouldn't be judged. And I remember you telling me that at that point you were clocked out of that conversation. You were there just because you had to be there, because that was your place to be, but you were checked out of that conversation. And being checked out of the conversation, why waste that time? Why do you want to be in a situation where you are with people who are not like-minded? If you're going to invest time into somebody else, they better be people that you want to spend time with.
And so then that brings me to, like, there's been an evolution of sorts, right? From the naive girl dreams of, this is what I want a friend, right? And this is what it means to be a friend, to here's the evolution to where we are now. But we're on our way there, right? So what happened as an adult woman, right? I have always found it very easy. We talked about this when we talked about Getting to Know Us episode, where I can fit into any situation, right? You put me into a place where you have to be talkative, I can do that, right? You put me in a place where I have to just be with women. I loathe and detest going to baby showers. I loathe and detest going to bridal showers, because this is all women, and I feel like I'm the prickly pear that just doesn't fit in. And it's a discomfort level for me that I don't want to be in, right? So, can I be there? Yes. Do I want to be there? Absolutely not. All right. So, however, even though that's how I feel, I've always found that I have a way with people. People come and tell me deep personal secrets without me ever sitting there and saying, tell me your deepest personal secret. It'll just be the easiest, like,
But like, hi, how are you? What's your name? Katmia? Hi, Katmia. Let me tell you about the time that I was growing up and
I cannot tell you how many times a patient will leave my room crying with a brand new box of tissues that I just gave them because they just shared things with me, loss, divorce, sadness, all the stuff. And I am not prying. It's just I listen. I feel like I'm a good listener, right? And so when you find someone that you feel like you can open up with, people just need a small invitation to open up. They're not as closed up as people think that they are, right?
Right.
You just want to be heard. You want someone to empathize with you. That's what you're looking for, right? And I felt like I thrive in that area. Now, what happened was that my job sort of became that space, right? Which I
Well,
enjoyed.
you were so good at.
I enjoyed it so much.
You remember when they did? Well, you remember when they did the? I forgot what the name of that test was. The test that they did to see where you would thrive as a person.
In a job.
And I remember that in that test, something that came back on it for you, you disagreed with. I don't know if you remember this.
Remind me, because now I don't.
Yeah, so it said that that you I can't think of the exact words, but it said that you like it filled you. It was something that gave you life to be able to be there for somebody else. And you looked at me and you're like, no. Is it something that I'm good at? Is it something that I'm able to do? Is it something that I would do okay in, like thrive in? Yeah, I can thrive in it, but it drains me, is what you said to me.
Right.
And after that, this entirely new restructuring happened, and you were put into that position. That's where you were saying that your job became that.
It became that, which I felt like I could do very, very well, right?
You were killing it.
But this is what happened, right? In terms of friendship, because I'm pointing it back to friendship. I surrounded myself, with people who were not giving, they were taking, right? And not because they're selfish and cruel and ill-intended people, but because they were needy, hurting people.
They were
right?
they were in a position where that's what they needed. They needed they needed to be around people that were going to take care of them, to be able to get them out of where they were.
Right.
So that there was maybe an opportunity in the future for them to turn around and be able to give to somebody else.
Maybe. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
But so instead of me getting a phone call from someone who just wanted to check in on me, the phone call was coming because I need something from you. Whether it's time, listen. Most of it was just listen. Let me just pour out my heart. I need someone to talk to, blah, blah, blah. So I am the person who has always been there to listen. And yet I don't feel like I am able to turn to someone and say, here are my thoughts on this. Can I say this? And I want to exclude my sisters from this, okay? Because I feel like it's almost a given. Yes, you can just be a sibling to someone, but good relationships, you'll be sisters and you'll be friends, right? But that's not the same. That's not the friends I'm talking about, right? Because, excuse me, I feel like I can call Leah, for example. She's always going to be the first one who's going to hear anything at all. And if I'm having deep, intrusive, dark thoughts, I can tell her about them. All right. And she can listen and all stuff. And I don't have that with another woman. I don't have that. Now, there are people, and this is why I feel like I have hesitated to record this conversation, because I know that there are people that if they are listening to this chat right now, they can feel like you could have done that with me. You could have called me at any time and you could have told me those things, right? And you're right. I could have. Except that I just didn't ever feel that comfort level with you.
And it has nothing to do with the person. It has everything to do with a square peg in a square hole. Circle peg with a circle hole. It has to fit perfectly for you to be able to open up to the point where there's enough comfortability to be able to share absolutely everything.
So I can hear this conversation already, right? One person saying, I shared everything with you, right? But then I didn't share everything with them. Why is that, right? They felt that door open where you could share everything with me, right? But I never felt like I could be there. Why? Because I feel like that relationship never went down to the point where I felt that me as a person was of interest to you. You, this person, right? Anybody can fit into this role, did not seek me out. Like, I want to understand what makes you tick. And how do you view life in this sense? I didn't get that from someone. Now, I did get that from one person, right? Who was such a life giver when I met her. And I met her much, much later in life, right? And she came in and I felt like she saw me. And she never took anything from me. She just came to give and to encourage and to build up and to do all this stuff, right? And I would have, had she stayed in my life, I would have seen her as a mentor. I don't know that I would have seen her so much as a friend, because in my perspective, when you're in a position where you're giving to me and I'm taking from you, I don't know that you're ever going to get to this place where we evenly take from each other. Because there's always going to be, like, I see you as a benefactor or a caretaker of some sort, right? I don't know in my mind that you can ever be equal in that ground, right? The same way where there are so many people who shared very deep things with me, and I walked with them through those things, and I did everything I could to help them get out and get to a better side. But I could have never come to them and said, hey, can you hear me out on stuff? Why? I think it's because they were still in crisis mode when I knew them, right? I never got to see a healed, mature, grown, better version of who I knew, right? So how am I going to come and lay my little troubles at your feet when you're still dealing with the same trauma and the same crisis from before? You're not that person for me. Yes, I can be that person for you, but you are not that person, i.e., we can't be friends.
And the thing about it, it isn't that we're looking for therapy sessions. We're looking for genuine connections with people to be able to share life with, to be able to, like, participate side by side, enjoying each other's company, spending time with each other, having a good time. I don't want to say, "Hey, let's hang out this weekend," and then have it be a 3-hour therapy session where at the end of it somebody's, breaking down and going through, like, listen, we all go through our stuff. We all have things that we go
Absolutely.
through. We have things that are
Absolutely.
difficult. Life is hard. Family is hard.
But
Work is hard. This is hard. That is hard. All that. Yeah, I got it. But there's an opportunity for us to surround ourselves with people who are going to fill us back up,
so
right?
I do want to say something because in just thinking about this, there's one couple that I feel is a loss to us, right? Because I feel like they were the closest thing that we have ever come to having that for both of us, right? Um, and if they're listening, they'll know who they are, right? But this couple, I felt that every time that we got together with them, it was invigorating. It was exciting. We both equally shared frustrations and struggles. And it was just kind of like I'm just letting you know what I'm going through, not I'm here to pour my soul out. Help me. No. And it was like that. And it felt like they had their stuff figured out. We had our stuff figured out. And we would just get together and we would just talk. We never played a single game together. We went out a couple times together, and it was just fun to be with them, and it was life-giving to be with them. Unfortunately, through no fault of their own, they went through some stuff while we were going through some stuff, and I feel like we just got caught in our stuff and so lost touch with each other. Maybe we were trying to spare each other the stuff. I don't know. But I
The
feel
tide pulled us apart.
I do feel that if they were to call tomorrow and say, "We've missed you guys. Can we see you?" I'm 100% down. I'm 100% down for it. And I feel like we would pick up and it would just be what has been going on, you know? And there is no hurt feelings of, why haven't you called? Why haven't you texted? Nothing. And I will say, 'cause this is going to take me to something else. I have known hundreds of people. Hundreds. Would you not say that we have known hundreds of people? And yet, I feel like one of the reasons why I was so good at my job was because I was the person who had all these people here. And it was like, let me send so and so a text because I haven't seen them. Let me check in and see what's going on with them. Right? And I heard that feedback so many times. Nobody has checked in on me. You're the only one. You're the only one who cares. But that was the problem. See, is that we had that, and then we had people who said that we're the friends that are going to help carry you through everything else, right? We're the ones that when you're done with that part, you can come here and you can have peace and you can have all that stuff, right? And then there was something that really rattled our lives. We came to a fork in the road where now it was, okay, the friends, you said
Yeah,
that,
the one that you said that when we needed it,
right,
you were gonna be there.
you were going to be there, right? And I'm going to say me. I'm not going to say we. I looked around and I saw people who could not make eye contact with me.
Listen,
Who could not, even when I called them out on that, you said you would be here. They could not make eye contact because they didn't even know where to put their face, because
It's
the
still-
truth of it came out that, well, actually, I'm going to put it in plain terms that are just my terms, okay? But pretty much what we were told was, see, we're choosing friends, and we're choosing this side.
It still upsets me.
What upsets you? The whole situation.
The whole situation.
It upsets,
we
but
ga-
does
we
not
gave-
affect the way that it used to.
Oh, no. I feel like I gave so much.
And so blindly. That's the
So
problem.
blindly.
So blindly, right? Where
I've
it was
become-
just like
I've
a
become
bank,
I've become so cynical.
and so jaded.
Like, it's like, I don't know that we will have that opportunity again. I want that opportunity.
I think there's a part of us that goes back to the part that you said people want to be wanted, right? There's a part of us that goes back to wanting that. For example, I was just talking to my sister about one of my sisters about, I've always wanted to go to a Christmas party that's right before Christmas, somebody's home, where you bring a dish and you wear a sweater and we're going to play Christmas music and everybody's just going to mingle and we're going to have fun or whatever. I've always wanted to have somebody to go to game night and have couples game night, and we're a team and we're going to kill it and all that stuff. And again, I'm going back to, I'm taking these things from movies and from shows because I have not seen that. Let me go back. I did see it because I was part of it while I served a purpose. While I served a purpose, guess what? We did have a Christmas party, and we did have game nights, and we had the barbecues, and we had this, and it felt so amazing to be part of this little community, this little, what do they call it? This little tribe where you belonged and you had friends, and they would text and they would call. Not so much as you did, right? Now that you look back and you think about it, right? But all of a sudden, when push came to shove and you're in the trenches and you said, I need you, it was like, oh, look at the time.
Ooh, I got homework to do, and I gotta feed the dog, and
All of a sudden,
I-
right, there was, and I want to say, because again, if people are listening, they might be like, whoa. I tried to reach out to you, and you barely gave me anything back, right? That is true. That is not untrue. And there was only one person who did that. One person who did that with me. Because everybody else was more than happy to wash their hands of us, okay? One person who did try, but here's the problem, and I'm going to say it plain as day. I've never been able to say that to them, right? If I ever find myself as your friend, the one thing that you can count on me for is like loyalty that's going to take me to my death. All right. Because to me, that is so important, is loyalty. When you're telling me, I'm here, I'm your friend, I will call you, I will check on you, you know, you can cry on me, you can vent to me, you can do all that stuff with me, right? But you can still be friends with the people who hurt me, and the people who betrayed me, and the people who abandoned me. You can be friends with people like that. I don't want you in my life. And that is why I can't respond to you. And that is why I do not accept you reaching out to me, because you have to show your loyalty. And if I am friends with someone and some other people have come to hurt them, yeah, maybe they haven't hurt me and I don't have a problem with them directly. But if
Bro, I got your
you're my
back.
friend, yeah, how
I
do
got
I
your
have
I
your
got your
back?
back.
But also, on Monday, I've got your back. But on Tuesday, I've got game night with them.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Thank you. Don't do me
Either
any
you're
favors.
either you're in or you're out.
Don't do me any favors. You can go right on over there.
Yeah.
You are released
have
of
fun.
your duties.
I listen, as clear as day. You want to say it clear as day? I'm gonna give it as clear as day. The group that is, they know who they are, and if they're listening, they hear it, and they're gonna hear it in my voice. They're gonna hear how serious and how not full of crap I am, because I'm gonna say it the way that it is. If you were hurt on the side of the road, I'd step over you and keep walking, because that's
Dang.
what you did to me. That's what you did to me. That's what you did
And
to
I
my
don't fault
family.
you for it. And I don't
That's what you
fault you
did.
for it.
That's
you
what
know?
you did. That's what you did with our friendship, with our trust. You stepped over it and left me to die on the side of the road. Man, we went through what we went through. Like, it was the darkest time in our existence of our family. And we looked around and we sat in an empty, dark, zero window, no air room. In silence. Alone.
So now,
There's the saying, with friends like that, who needs enemies?
so no, I've heard that saying. I've never put it together with that. But
Bro,
so
with friends like that, who needs enemies? Because
So-
for real, bro.
so here's the thing, right? I know then that there are other people who throw the term around friendship, and to them, because of whatever it means to them, they could be like, "Oh yeah, I know her. She's my friend." I wouldn't say the same thing about you, right? But that's how you see me, right? So then in that sense, then you're telling me you don't need a lot from me. You just need to know me to call me your friend, right? I require more from someone who wants to be my friend, right? And also there has to be a sense of understanding, I think, from someone who would say, "I want to be your friend," right? That you're taking on a very jaded person, a very distrusting person, a very guarded person who is always now looking for, what is your motivation? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to know that? Like, I don't want to leave myself vulnerable again, because I feel that it was because of me being naive and feeling like I had finally achieved this book type friendship, right? That this is why it happened. This is why I missed all of the warning signs. And it's, to me, I live by the fool me once. And that's just not going to happen to me again, right? And if that means that then I live a life of solitude with everyone being held at bay, that's fine by me, right? However, there is another person who was removed from all of this, who has nothing to do with any of this, who I feel has ended up taking the short end of the stick from the fallout of what became me. Because from that experience, a new me was born. A new you was born, right? And in this version of me, right, this is a person who no longer is interested in pleasing people and being involved with people. Yeah, it still is a nice thought that, we could go to a Christmas party or whatever. But I don't feel like my life is less than because I don't have that. I don't feel like, oh no, I have no one to talk to. I don't feel like that. I just don't have that, right? And so this other person who sort of, I feel, has taken the brunt end of that, there's, they weren't here to see that evolution, right? They don't understand, I feel, that there is a need that I have to be alone, that I prefer to be alone, that I used to be okay with accepting the fact that people had expectations from me and that there were certain proprieties that I had to fulfill and all of these things, right? Like, hey, you need to text somebody, you need to stay in contact with them, you need to do. I no longer feel the urge to do that, right? If, let's say, if someone were to enter a friendship with me, they should expect barely to hear from me. All right. Barely. Because you're not here to see like where I am in my life at this moment, right? So, for example, there are days when I leave work where I just want to drive home in silence. It's been that type of day where I know I'm going into traffic and I've had a frustrating day and I just want to like go into the dead space and drive home and just come ground with you, and that's it. Like, I just want my day to be over, and I don't have the energy to be able to call someone and now hear conversation that is just draining to me, right? I don't have it. I used to not choose myself before, right? I used to feel a need to, hey, I need to give to somebody else, right? Take care of you later. No, I am very selfish now. And I choose me before I choose anybody else, right?
There's something about that I think we are kind of, we run parallel with it, because the hurt came from the same place. It was from a place that we had given full trust. We were completely bought in, and for lack of better terminology, we were drinking the Kool-Aid, and the way that we are now, if we were to take it and run it parallel with what was being preached, we are the complete opposite. If they said up, we go down. If they say left, we were right. We go right. They say stop, we go. We are down the line doing the opposite of what we were bought into because of the level of hurt. And like you said, there are people who are getting hurt, who got hurt along the way. At least you tried. I just shut everybody out. I literally just shut
And
everyone
I feel like
out
that's
completely.
But I feel like my trying has been because I recognize the fact that you didn't have anything to do with it, right? I recognize that you didn't have anything to do with it, and yet like I'm still trying to think about, I don't want anyone to feel hurt, right? I feel that there's
I don't want to hurt it. I don't want to hurt anyone.
I don't want to hurt anybody.
I don't want them to feel anything near of what we felt.
Not at all.
But
not at all.
But like you said, in a selfish mindset, which is what we're in right now. And does that change in the future? Maybe it changes in the future. But for me, I don't see how.
So here's the thing. Like, I feel like I've spent my whole life meeting people where they're at, and nobody has met me where I'm at. Okay. Why is that too much to ask? That if you're my friend, right? Then why haven't you met me there? Where maybe you just need to text me a no strings attached. Hey, I know that you're going through a hard thing right now. You know? I'm thinking about you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If not, you know, here's pictures of the kids, or, you know, here's something funny I read. I don't know. Why don't you just continue a normal thing with me, right? Why is there an expectation from me? Like, I don't feel like you've understood where I'm at. I don't think that you know where I'm at then. And then that, to me, puts into question, okay, they could say, well, you haven't shared with me where you're at, but I didn't have the capacity to. And I feel that if you're in a place, if I am your friend, if you're in a place where I feel like you've sort of pulled away and, you know, I've tried to reach out to you and you're not really responding, bro, like, I know maybe you need a minute, you know? I'm not going to take that personally. And it's not going to be well, where have you been?
Oh,
Why
wow.
haven't,
Look who showed up. What do you need?
you know?
No.
No, it's going to be a, hey, you needed a minute. And you know what? Maybe instead of me reaching out so often to you, I'm going to reach out less and less and less, right? And to the point where if you decided that's it, like you're not going to respond to me anymore and it's been a while, that's fine. That's fine. 5 years down the line, you come back and you're like, hey, how are you? I'll pick up where we left off. No hard feelings, right? No hard feelings at all. But to me, I feel like there's this obligation that I'm still under to make sure that people's feelings are not hurt, where I don't have the energy for that.
Are we for the better?
We are for the better, that we had our eyes open to the reality of people's true intentions, I feel.
I
Okay?
feel for me.
For
For me
me,
personally.
oh, for sure.
Man,
I
I
mean,
sleep.
for me,
listen. I sleep
anyway.
better. It wasn't easy at the beginning.
No, it wasn't easy for the first 3 years.
Yeah, it was a deep cut.
Yeah.
But looking back, good riddance.
But
Because
listen, it's not just that. It's just I feel
they've
like
developed. I've developed a thought process that comes from that has allowed me to care for myself, which is something I never did, never was doing before. It has allowed me to care for you in a very different way. You know?
well, and we still haven't gotten to the meat and potatoes
The
where I
meat,
feel
yeah, no.
like you're going to, okay? But so in the search for, you know, am I then a bad friend? I feel that in the standards that people have, I fall under the category of a bad friend. Why? Because I need a lot of alone time. I don't like to feel suffocated anymore. I don't like to feel obligated to do things. I don't want to feel like I am disappointing you and letting you down because your needs are that I call you every week and I can't give you that, right? So I was reading about having friendships and having ADHD, right? Which I know is a topic for another day, but it was talking about how so many people cut people out of their life. And it is not because there was a fight or anything like that at all, but it's because the pressure that you feel from the other person makes it so uncomfortable. And you feel like you cannot support that, right? That you just disengage from it and you just stop talking to people because you don't want to deal with that anymore. That was what that conversation was about that I read about. For me, it's coming from a place of burnout. I was that to too many people for too long. And then when everything was on fire, I was abandoned in that fire. Okay. And essentially, I feel left for dead. Right. And now you want me to be. Now you want me to be that friend.
Or we were.
You know, and now you want me to be that same friend. I am not even the same person. Do you even want to be friends with this person now? That's the question, right? It's like,
I don't know. Let's take 5 steps back just really quick and we'll fast forward again. If you were to take the different couple friendships that we had, and you were to insert us currently, would we work in any of them?
So I feel like now we got to go forward, right? That's a good question. And in going forward, this is where we are now. Back to the question. Would you even be friends with who I am today?
Bro, you
right?
took
but that's,
where I was going.
Right. But that's the
But
thing,
I'm saying
right?
that,
because for me now, if I ever call somebody else a friend, you know me entirely. And you have shown me you accept me entirely. You don't care about XYZ, right? And you're choosing to still be friends with me. If I cannot be my true, authentic self with you, we are not friends. And that is I feel like it's such a hard truth to say because at this moment right now, there is not a single person that I know who I feel that I am friends with. Truly. Because you do not truly know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to define that in this sense that I see it, like you have to know me, right? In order to be considered a friend.
No skeletons.
Then nobody really knows me. Is that their fault? Is that their fault? I don't think it's their fault. I think partially it can be attributed to the fact that you haven't tried to
But we haven't. Hold on. But we haven't had any. When was the last time we hung out with anybody?
On the cruise.
And what are we on the cruise? 100% authentically us.
Yeah.
We're not hiding anything. We are acting the way that we are. We are not putting anything on a leash. We walk on there. We go out, because these are people that we're like, we'll never see them again. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to judge us. And you know what the crazy thing is? They
cool
don't
people.
judge us.
No, they don't. That's the crazy part.
That's the thing.
So there is still hope for us, yes. But what I'm saying is that for anybody who does, because there's a lot of people who are going to listen who are going to be like, oh yeah, I know them. I know the two of them. But the thing is, no, you don't really.
You know who we showed you.
And that's what I was going to say, right? This is why I don't fault them. Because we showed you a version of us, right?
That was expected of us.
That was the proper expected version of us because of the situation, right? That's who we were, right? To you. But had you asked the questions to get to know us, you would have gotten to know us. That's the thing. We don't offer up that stuff. Like some people like to put their laundry out there. We don't do that. The people who want to know will ask, and the people who are just content with the superficial will not ask. So if that's never been the case, like I will even remember this. I had a more revealing conversation about myself with one of these many people that I have talked about today, right? In which I was very honest and transparent about, this is something about me that you don't know, right? And it was met with shock because they're completely an opposite version of that. And it was just, whoa, I'm completely shocked. I had no idea. And that in and of itself is very uncomfortable because now I feel like I just put my stuff out there and you were not ready for it, right? And so,
and how do you go back? How do you pull back from that?
So I tried.
You don't.
I tried. So then what you've shown me is that you are very, very almost fragile and sensitive. And in me taking care of you, because that's the type of person I am not going to reveal things about myself then that are going to make you feel a certain way then.
The friendship at that point is just superficial. It's all top. It's just,
and that's, I feel like that's a very hard thing to acknowledge. Do you understand? Like, it's hard. I feel like it's very hard. I was having another conversation with another sister of mine in which I was saying, and I'll ask you this question, right? Because I feel like it's very messy, right? But if I'm your friend and you share good news with me, a promotion, you won the lottery.
Uh-oh, hold on. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to have to use a little bit of that audio. It unplugged here for a second.
Okay. You good?
Yeah, if I have to use that audio, I'll use that audio.
All right. So, if you have a promotion, if you won the lottery, if you're buying a new house or whatever, and I'm your friend, right? And you share this with me, and I respond with bitter resentment. Am I really your friend? That's an honest question. Can a friend...
Why would somebody that you have in your life that you are sharing intimate things with be resentful?
Because they are jealous and they wish it was them.
Then they're not a friend.
So, are you sure? Because aren't you allowed to have differing opinions about stuff?
You can have differing opinions, but if you're my friend and you're sharing something with me that you are excited about, I don't need to like what you are excited about. I just need to be excited that you have achieved something you're excited about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that's what I was saying, is that I feel like it's a very tricky thing, right? Because you may need to be reevaluating, right? If someone responds so negatively to something positive in your life, and this is your best friend, are they really? Or is this just a title that you have? Because I feel that I could never do that. And if I'm at a point where I'm feeling jealousy and anger and bitterness towards somebody because they're doing something better, I need to remove myself from that situation because I'm faking a friendship now, So to me, what have we established? Loyalty is paramount I feel like I've lost you.
No, I'm good.
And now because I've lost you, I'm losing myself.
Not at all. Go ahead.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure because there was a little thing, but it's
So
we're back.
loyalty is paramount, right? And the loyalty that I require may not be what you're willing to give, and that's totally fine. We can be acquaintances. Okay? We're not going to be friends. Am I longing for a friend? Nope. Why? Because I actually don't know that it exists out there.
So here,
Okay.
let me pose this question.
And I still haven't gotten to the meat and potatoes.
I know. If we had the opportunity to find a friend that would sit across from us the way you and I sit across from each other, that would be the only person I feel that I could, going forward, say that's a friend.
Like this, having conversation, open conversation?
That I know your deepest, darkest, and you know my deepest, darkest. And we are friends. You and I are friends to the...
Are you saying this now, or are you saying this as an example?
I'm saying this now.
Oh, okay. Because that's my meat and potatoes.
Oh.
That's my meat and potatoes.
So we're thinking the same.
So exactly, okay? This is why we know we're friends, okay? So I feel like a lot of couples, they say, oh, you know, this is my best friend married to my best friend. You know what? If they are married to their best friend and that's really their best friend, hooray for you, okay? I have heard other people say it is the worst thing for you to say that your husband or your wife or your partner is your best friend. The worst thing. Because then they become your everything. No, honey, here's the problem, okay? Is that you do know my deepest, darkest. I can tell you my most disturbing, intrusive thoughts. And you're not going to look at me with shock. I came to you and I said to you, I think I'm the villain here. I think that when people hear this episode, they're going to say, what a terrible person she is, cutting people out and demanding that people be a certain way and all that stuff. And it hurt me that people could think that I was the villain. But also, I came to you and I said, I think that's who I am. And you said, why? Why? You're right in that. And it's just like, I don't have anybody else who would do that, right? And I know that when things are on fire, I don't have to even ask, hey, you said you were going to be here. You're already there, you know? So we even went through a phase where we weren't sure we could share everything with each other, right? Because, and I don't know that couples ever get to the space where you can share everything. There's probably couples listening to right now that they're thinking, yeah, we share everything, and then you all of a sudden you're gonna think about that one thing that well you haven't exactly said everything. You said kind of everything.
This is what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
So we always talk about and we joke a little bit about the receipts. I have receipts, right? We have receipts. Mm-hmm. Okay, on our phones, we have receipts of how much what we are saying is true. Because if somebody who knows us, and there are people who know us right now that are listening to this, family, people that are acquaintances, if they were to get a hold of our phones and go through and get the meat and potatoes, they would pick up the phone and call you and be like, who are you? Because there are things about us that only I know about you and only you know about me. And that maybe, some sprinkles here and some sprinkles there of people that know some of those things about us, but nobody gets the full picture. The way that you and I have shared the full
part
picture.
of that is not because but I'm saying and part of that is not because it's we're holding things from people, right? But it's stuff that there could be like these thoughts that you have that you think, oh, if I ask this question out loud, like maybe they would put me in a straitjacket, right? So you know what? You go to the person that you trust the most
Bro,
and you say it once. You don't have to go to three different people and say the same
those
thing.
are some of our best conversations.
You know?
When
Or
when you start a question for me and you say, "Am I crazy? Like, do I need to go into a straitjacket for thinking this way, or
and it's
am
funny
am I
because
okay?"
you and I both have done therapy,
Mhm.
and one of my initial questions I remember was, how do I know I'm not a sociopath? Okay. That was one of my original questions. And I laid it out because I'm a person who's very inquisitive. I've already said this. Think people know this, right? And I will think things that you even tell me sometimes, like, how does your mind come up with stuff like this, right? Um, and it concerns me. It concerns me that I will think something and I had to say, how do I know that I'm not like this sociopath or a psychopath or something like this? Because here's a question and here's a thought and all that stuff. And he just like gently chuckled and he said, the very fact
That
that
you're
you're
asking.
asking that proves that you're not. Because these people they can't even acknowledge that part, right? That was such a relief to me because then I just know that I'm weird and I'm quirky and I'm fine with that part. And I have really weird and intrusive thoughts and I'm fine with that. See, and then this is another
Wasn't it a
thing.
couple episodes back we talked about that?
Did we?
Yeah, your outer thoughts betray your inner thoughts, or your inner thoughts betray my outer thoughts.
I think so. I
Something
don't
like
even
that.
know. But
I think it was the same episode, our personality one.
oh, okay. But in that, in just I feel like I have with you what I read from a kid. Like we talked about those naive childhood dreams of friend versus an adult friend and all that stuff. I feel like you fulfill all of those things in my mind of friendship, right? Like I know that this could be used in a court of law against us at some point as evidence, but I'm going to say it, right? I would do anything for you as far as committing a crime, which we'll just leave it there. That way they can never really pinpoint what crime we're saying. Okay. But like, I would storm the gates of hell with you. And I know you would do that with me. There's not even a question. I feel like a betrayal from either of us would be a nail in the coffin.
Can I
Like
take
that
it?
would be the thing that would send me to a mental asylum because then I don't know anything about life.
Can I take it one step further?
Okay.
We've proven that.
We have without a crime. We have to put it out
Or
there.
have we?
We
No.
have to put it out there.
We've proven that. We have proof that we would literally do anything for each other. And I don't know that I would have it any other way. So at the end of the day,
Are we the bad people?
are we? If we are, then
I mean, I think that this is going to be in the eye of the beholder. I
Listen,
think that many
does it
people will
matter?
be split
Does it-
with their ideas of, yeah, you're a little too hard on one side or you're a little too jaded and you know what, everyone can have their opinions about this because I feel like a lot of people are going to come and their thoughts are going to be like, oh, you just need to let things go and you need to. Here's the thing. First, don't tell us how we need to do things, okay? Because we've been through a journey for the last 5 years that has taken us through letting it go and healing and deep pain and
You know what
sorrow and grief and anger and rage and all of these things that we have been through. And what it has done is that it has created people who are no BS. We don't have the energy for it. We don't have the time for it. Toxicity in our life, cut off entirely. If you ask us a direct question, you're going to get one warning. Are you actually asking me? Because
Do
if
you
you
really
are,
want to know?
because if you are, you're going to get it in a way that is not sugar-coated, and it's going to perhaps hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But why? Because we're done with the pretense. And then that's the other thing. Didn't we talk about that? Can't stand fake people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we've been at the very front row of that.
I just thought about something, literally, like right this second.
Mm-hmm.
So we started this in 2022.
The podcast?
Right? Yeah.
No, didn't we start this during the pandemic?
Was it 2020?
I don't know. Honestly, you're going to have to check.
It was 2020.
Yeah.
We took a break when everything happened.
Did we? I don't know.
That's where
Because now I think I was in school.
Yeah, but during school we were doing it.
Yeah. But I think it had just happened.
Yeah, but it had just happened, so we were in the
I don't care.
we're gonna make it happen, blah blah. And then we took a break when it got nasty. So the space that is missing in our podcast from our audio recordings was there. I'm gonna start listening to I'm gonna start from the beginning.
Really?
This week.
Wow.
I'm curious to hear the transition. Because who we were, I'm curious if we need to maybe revisit some of the stuff that we talked about at the beginning.
Well, I also want to say this, right? That
just different perspectives.
We have kept people's names out of here because it is not our intention to put anybody's name out there. The people who are involved in this, they know.
That's their own, yeah.
That's your thing to bear. I don't need to tell anybody. That's not the purpose of this here. I feel like in light of us doing this for our kids, I feel like our children have been through their own experiences with betrayal and with people who were fake friends. And I think that for a lot of people, they think, well, that's just a natural thing that you go through as you're growing, right? And when you get older, it's different. And this is our saying, even as we were older, these are our experiences that we went through. And they're the ones who are more in the front row, right? Like our kids know everything about us, everything. There's nothing that we have from our kids that's a secret, right? Because we've always been that type of family.
Everything.
Where we say
and for the
everything.
people that are questioning, like they could pick up our phone and read our receipts and be like, I remember when you told me that. That's how open we are with our kids.
Everything, you know. So, but we've always been that way to the point where even people have made comments about, you know, I don't know what level of decency you have in your house, but we've just always felt like, why not? We're a family, and why hide from our kids?
And in return,
yeah,
they're open with us. We know everything about our kids.
Well, let's not say that, right? Because
we think.
I know that Mike and Nick have their own brother-sister secrets, right?
100%.
So we know that, right? And
that's okay.
Yes, and that's totally fine.
Okay.
I think it's
but
healthy
I think
that they have their own little things.
I think that the core,
the important stuff,
is
right, is that they know. So I feel like there's this openness that we have, but I think that in them listening to it, I think it's important because they have been at the forefront of seeing our shift and our evolving from being people pleasing, being willingly putting ourselves into situations where we were being drained, where self care was like, that's an afterthought, and seeing that change and really feeling that push on them. Like, it's important that you do this. Put a stop to this. Don't have toxic relationships. Like, all of that stuff, right? That I think to them, it's helpful for them to see where we've been. Not that we haven't discussed this, but I do feel like sometimes our conversations here, they just have a different perspective of listening in rather than when you're talking to someone, how it's heard. So
There's a level of therapy that our chat has served.
Yeah. To the point where there is many times, this is just another little getting to know us, right? There's been several times already
Yeah.
where we will sit in these two chairs. We'll set up the mics just like this. No cameras or anything like that. We'll set up the mics pretending that we're having a podcast because there's something very therapeutic about sitting here, having no distractions with the phone, not anything else going on. Like, this is our time to talk, and we will talk more freely because even though we are talking freely, again, by not saying names and not being, specific about things that have happened and all that stuff, in an effort, I was trying to say that before, to be above what we have experienced, right? Because that's where I was going. When you go back and you hear those things, we made it a point to not talk about it because we did not want to debase ourselves to a space where, oh, now I'm going to go to my social media page and just blast people and put my stuff out there. Absolutely not.
And even now, today, we're talking about things, and what we're talking about is not about what they did to us specifically, not about speaking bad about them. It's about the shortcomings of what we were expecting friends who said they were going to be there for us.
Right. Like, don't tell me you're my friend.
Yeah. We're talking about, we're putting ourselves out there to be able to really work through it. For us, the need of looking for that other friend, because here's another little tidbit. The reason this conversation has been coming up so much for us is because I have asked Hetmia, hey, what about, what do you think about trying to explore some friendships? Like, we enjoyed having people in our house. We enjoyed having cookouts and, like, enjoying the backyard and watching movies.
And let me just interject something, right? We were the people who were inviting people over. And yet, these are the red flags we missed, right? Later, we would hear, oh, everybody got together, but we weren't invited.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was like, interesting.
Talk about missing the red flags.
Missing the red flags because you are looking for what you want to look for. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, or being told, hey, on the times we were invited, hey, come over. We want to spend time with you guys. How exciting. We show up. There's 12 other people there that we were not told about. And it's like, wait, you didn't want to spend time with me? Mm-hmm. I'm just one of 12 other people here. And now
you were checking off the box of...
No, maybe not, because that's just what they... No, because maybe this is the type of friendships that they have. That's what I'm saying. This is a perspective thing to them. It's like, I, again, feel like many people are going to hear this and they're going to say, well, you just want too much. I'm not. I'm just saying.
Don't tell me you want that you care for me.
I feel like anybody who's introverted will understand. You have to mentally prepare me for who's going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, I would always say, if I invited anybody, I would always say, I'm inviting you, and
And-
also 5 other families have been invited.
Yep.
Okay? So that you can prepare, because I know I need that. That's the thing. It's the little things that, like, if I'm doing it for someone else, why can't someone do that for me? And if that's too much to ask, then just move on. Just move on then. That's fine.
And here's the crazy part. We're not going to get offended if you don't. If you feel that the situation that you are trying to invite us into doesn't quite work for us, I'd rather have you not invite us than to invite us and just hope for the best.
Well, I'm going to actually say the opposite of you there, right? I would rather you let me make that decision, and you don't
Giving
get
us full information.
don't
Yeah.
get offended if I
If
decline.
I say no, yeah.
Like, invite me knowing that more than likely I'm going to decline. Thank you for thinking about me,
Yeah.
but probably I'm going to decline. And the thing is, it's like, that's fine. Why is it that I would now say, well, now you can't be my friend because every time I invite you, you don't come? Well, guess what? Maybe they don't want to socialize. Okay? Maybe this is not what the thing that they want to be in. Where's the understanding in that part? Is it too much to ask? And if it's too much to ask, then I guess I just don't need friends then. I don't know, But like for the people who feel like, well, I need to see you at least, right? The friend who's like saying, well, I at least need to see you once a month. We need to get together. But why? Like, you have to understand, I have a life. I have plans. I have things that I'm doing. If your friendship is going to require me to, like, force time set aside for you, and if not, then I'm failing somehow.
Where do you, if our friendship needs a checklist, I don't want you as a friend.
Exactly. So I feel that, I mean, I'm very curious to see what the feedback is on this episode. I was very wary of even recording it, but I've had enough conversations with people who have encouraged me that we should have this conversation, if only for it to be a therapeutic session for us and for us to leave this for our kids, but also because there's a lot of things that people feel themselves, right? And I personally, this is how I'm going to wrap up where I'm at right now. I personally feel that if you are ever in a situation in a relationship in which you feel, a drag that I have to make a phone call, or a drag that I'm getting a phone call, right? You need to reevaluate. Are you faking that friendship? And how do you cut it off? The cutting off is never easy, because I feel like many times it isn't because of the other person. So what if the other person is needy? That's something that's their thing, right? You just don't have the energy for it. Obviously, a person shouldn't be needy, anyone, right? You should work on that. You need to be self-sufficient and all that. But
You know the type of friendship I want?
what type?
The one where when I get a text from that person, I'm excited to get a text from that person.
Yeah. And it's not just a Christmas text.
Yeah.
I
saying,
don't
like,
I don't send that.
Anytime I get a text from you, and it doesn't matter what is going on. We could have had an argument, and I get a text from you, I have a little jump in my step. And sometimes it's you telling me that I'm an idiot.
I've never said that.
Not those words. You have you're a thesaurus. So,
Thesaurus. No, I'm joking. That's from Fable. That's what he calls it. A thesaurus.
You're a thesaurus. So,
Doesn't that sound like a dinosaur? Huh? A bronchiosaurus?
Bring it back.
Thesaurus?
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Okay.
Bring it back. I just, if the opportunity comes for us to have a friends,
Yeah, we're
That-
not saying we're
that-
close to that.
yeah,
I just
that
feel
check-
like
that
it's
check off.
there's a lot of patience required.
Boxes. That's the type of friendship I want. I want friends that check off 0 boxes. We just have good personalities that mesh, and we have a good time. That's it.
And there's no expectation,
Mm-hmm.
right? We talk when we talk. We get together when we get together. If we don't show up and you invited us and we said no thank you, you don't take offense to that, you know? And it's just like, I love it when you can pick up and just carry on with someone like you never stop talking to them. And it's fine. And there isn't this feeling, because I think a lot of people have that, like, oh, I'm not important to you. Oh, you don't make time for me. And it's like, how do I tell you truly it's really not you, even though it could be you, right? Because I feel like
It's not you. It's me.
I do feel it's me though. That's the thing.
I know, but I'm saying
I am not the same person
there's
that
such
you.
a negative. There's such a negative attachment to. It's not you. It's me, bro. It's not you.
Right. And
It's
the
me.
reason, the thing is that it could be you that needs to work on some things, yes, but I'm removing all of the blame from you and putting it squarely on me, saying,
Yeah, here.
I
Let me
I am
free
not
you
filling
from
your
that
needs.
burden. Let me free you from the burden of needing
Blaming you.
to mold yourself
No.
to fit into the situation.
No, here's the thing. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like I accept the fact that I am not going to fit into what people want. And that's the thing, is that there's people in your life right now, to our listeners, right, who are asking and demanding things of you that you're feeling obligated and really like, this weight. You shouldn't feel that weight. And there's a lot of strength that I think that comes from disconnecting yourself from that and choosing yourself above another person's needs for your own mental happiness, right? Where to me, it's like, I'm sorry that your feelings are hurt truly, because I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I am not responsible for your feelings. I can't be, you know?
There's enough that I'm going through.
That's it, you know? And if
And-
you cannot understand
And
that,
I
I'm sorry.
if there's a way that I can be there for you without me having to rearrange my world, I can do it. But not because I just met you. It's because there's been a relationship that has been cultivated and is solid, not draining.
Never draining. Fill yourself with people who give life to you and who make you a better person, who bring out the best version of you. That's the advice that we could give.
Yes. You fill my cup, baby. Say it back to me.
I didn't want to say that back to you. I didn't want to say that back to you.
I know.
I wanted to say that out of billions of people,
8 billion?
who
Change.
knows, but you're my person.
Foot
And
high five.
even if we split up, because we've talked about this, like I feel like that's more than anything is the thing that has put a stopper on our even feeling like splitting up.
Yeah.
is but I'd be losing not only a spouse, I'd be losing a friend. Like, to me, I value that more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
More than anything.
You've said this before, and I'll say it because it is what it is. But you've said it sometimes. You've said, I feel like we're friends before lovers.
And that's true. I feel like, and I have felt like that always.
100%.
Always.
100%.
Always.
25 years later.
25 years later.
Bro, we got 2 weeks.
I know.
Uh-huh.
I know.
I know.
Well, now we said what date this is going to come out in.
Yeah, it is what it is.
All right.
All right.
Anyway, I'm sorry for the super uber long
Listen,
episode.
Our longest episode ever?
Oh, God. Part 1 and 2, probably.
No, one shot.
One shot.
Yes. You ready for this? This is Joe Rogan style episode.
Say that ain't so.
2 hours and 37 minutes later.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Yeah. I think that's why it even was shutting
We're
off.
going to give it a Friends. We're going to give it a Friends title.
I think
You know how
I
there-
think that's why it jumped. It shut off, and I had to restart it.
You know that it goes.
Thankfully, I got it right away.
The one with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just kidding. It's an hour and 46 minutes.
Oh, I was like, how did we talk for 2.5 hours?
It's an
Oh
hour
my
and
gosh.
46 minutes. It's still our longest.
It is still the longest.
Still the
Okay.
longest. All right.
Okay.
Well,
The one with all the friendship.
this concludes this episode.
And you know what?
I
I mean,
hope-
regardless of the comments,
When did this
whatever
one come out?
whatever side of the aisle you're on, I feel like it would be good to just hear your thoughts on friendship, what a friend is to you, because that's one thing that we've learned is that because everyone has different needs, then you need to look for the friends that fill those needs. And if you are a very clingy, needy person, then you need to find someone who likes to be the supplier of that for you, you know? And for me, I don't think you said your part, but for me, it's loyalty above all else. And just
I need authenticity.
I like that.
That's for me. For me, it's the authenticity. I need to be able to be who I
Above
am
loyalty?
completely. Loyalty comes with that.
I guess.
If I'm so open to tell you every single bit and piece of me, it's because you're loyal to me.
I like that.
So,
Yeah.
authenticity. So this episode will come out when you're listening to this episode. We are just a couple days away from our anniversary cruise.
Ooh, how awesome.
So, yeah. We're going to be celebrating 25 years. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you stayed all the way to the end.
Yeah, and I'm really, again, the comments, you know, like,
Yeah,
just,
let us know what you think. Like,
is it
are we crazy?
relatable? No, yeah, no, but I'm saying, like, was any of this relatable to you? Do you find, you know, that you are on the side that feels some of the things that we feel, or do you feel that you completely have a completely different opinion, right?
Yeah.
Which is perfectly fine. It's just, that's just another little look into us, and
This was
how we
this
think.
was a deep
this was a deep dive.
dive.
Yep.
Anyways, like, share, subscribe. Take a look at all of our social medias, and what else? I hope you enjoyed the episode.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage. All right. See you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.